Have you ever worked your entire life for something, pouring every ounce of sweat, sacrifice, and dedication into it, only to watch it get destroyed in a single reckless moment by the very person you thought you could trust most? That's what happened to me. And it wasn't just about the car, it was about betrayal, accountability, and the painful truth that sometimes family loyalty has limits. I worked for years to afford my dream car, only for my brother to wreck it in a drunken crash. My family wanted to sweep it under the rug, but I wasn't about to let that happen. The truth, accountability isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The phone call came in the dead of night. It was 2 a.m. and I had been sound asleep, finally getting some rest after a long week. My name was called and the voice on the other end immediately set my heart racing. It was Officer Martinez informing me that my $60,000 Audi was involved in an accident. My stomach twisted as he told me the car was wrecked and the driver was my brother Jake. That car wasn't just an expensive vehicle to me. It was a symbol of years of hard work, saving every extra penny from overtime, every bonus, every sacrifice. It was my reward, a marker of my success after years of grinding. I rushed to the scene, still in disbelief, praying that Jake was okay, but knowing deep down that everything I had worked for was now at risk. The moment I saw the twisted wreckage, I knew my life would never be the same again. The phone rang, its shrill sound slicing through the quiet night. My eyes shot open, and I already knew it wasn't good news. Officer Martinez's voice was steady, but I could hear the gravity in his words. Your car was involved in a crash. Your brother's been taken to the hospital. The world seemed to freeze. Jake, my brother, had wrecked my car, my $60,000 car. I could barely process what I was hearing. Panic surged through me as I scrambled to get dressed, my hands shaking uncontrollably. The drive to the scene felt like it took forever. Each turn and every passing second only heightened my fear. What had happened? Was Jake okay? And more importantly, was he really the one behind the wheel? I needed answers fast. When I arrived at the scene, my heart sank. My car, the one I'd worked so hard for, was barely recognizable. The front end was completely smashed. The metal crumpled like paper, and the hood was buckled, exposing the engine beneath. The headlights had shattered, and the side mirror hung by a thread. The once shiny, sleek exterior now lay twisted, abandoned on the side of the road, surrounded by glass and debris scattered for yards. Officer Martinez approached as I stood frozen in disbelief. This was a high-speed crash, he said, pointing to the skid marks on the pavement. Your brother was driving at nearly 65 miles per hour in a 35 zone. It's a miracle he's alive. I could hardly hear the rest of his words. All I could think about was how reckless Jake had been, how he had taken my pride and joy and thrown it away. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Not only had my car been destroyed, but my trust in him had, too. When I finally got to Jake in the hospital, I was hoping for some accountability and apology, maybe even some regret. But when I walked into his room, I was met with a completely different attitude. He was lying in bed looking more annoyed than hurt, his arm and a cast and bandages wrapped around his head. "Thank God you're here," he said, his voice weak, but laced with an unmistakable sense of self-pity. "This is such a nightmare." I crossed my arms, trying to keep my emotions in check. "A nightmare you caused, Jake. You crashed my car drunk. Do you even realize how serious this is?" Jake rolled his eyes, not even looking at me. "I wasn't even that drunk," he muttered. "I had like 2 beers. It was just an accident." "Okay, I'm fine. The car is not. But hey, it's just a car." I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. Just a car. The words hit me like a slap. I wasn't hearing an apology, just excuses. "You're in the hospital because you were driving drunk, Jake," I said, trying to stay calm. "And you nearly killed someone, maybe yourself. That's not just an accident." But Jake wasn't listening. He was still in denial, deflecting blame as if nothing he had done was his fault. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the car. My family wasn't taking this seriously, and neither was Jake. They were all too ready to make excuses for him, and I was about to make sure they faced the truth, whether they liked it or not. The next day, my parents showed up at the hospital, and the tension was already thick in the air. They didn't come to check on me, the one who had lost her $60,000 car, or even to acknowledge the seriousness of the situation. No, they were there for Jake, who was laying in that bed like a victim of fate. "Megan," Mom said, her voice soft but firm. "Jake's been through a lot. You have to understand, he didn't mean for this to happen. It was a mistake." Dad chimed in, his usual calm demeanor now laced with defensiveness. "It was an accident. We're just glad Jake's okay. Everything will be fine." I shook my head, unable to hold back anymore. "Everything is not fine. My car is totaled. You're not even acknowledging how serious this is. He's lucky he didn't kill someone." But my parents brushed it off as if it was just another bump in the road. "It's not about the car, Megan," Dad said dismissively. "Jake is the one who has to live with what happened. He's going through enough right now." I felt my chest tighten. How could they not see it? It wasn't just about the car. It was about responsibility. But they couldn't even bring themselves to hold Jake accountable. All they cared about was protecting him, covering up his mistakes, and making sure he didn't face the consequences of his actions. The emotional weight of this was unbearable. In that moment, I realized they weren't going to change. I was on my own in this fight. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to navigate the emotional wreckage of the situation. Part of me wanted to forgive Jake, to let it go and move forward. After all, he was my brother. But every time I thought about it, the weight of my car loomed larger. It wasn't just the financial loss. It was the time, the effort, and the sacrifice it had taken for me to get to where I was. And then Jake, after all my hard work, had wrecked it in a single moment of reckless, drunk driving. I couldn't let that go. My family thought I was being harsh, unforgiving, and even cruel. But deep down, I knew if I let Jake walk away from this without consequences, I was enabling him. I was telling him that it was okay to destroy things and not take responsibility. I wasn't willing to be part of that. After hours of internal struggle, I made the decision. I walked to the police station and filed the report. The silence in the room was deafening as I handed over all the details. The unauthorized use of my car, the reckless driving, the damage, the DUI charges, everything. I knew my family would be furious, but the truth had to be told. I couldn't protect Jake from the consequences any longer. He needed to face them. Not because I wanted revenge, but because it was the only way for him to ever change. As I walked out of the station, something shifted inside me. I was no longer a passive player in my family's drama. I had finally taken control. The family dinner was supposed to be a peaceful gathering, a place to mend the rift that had grown between us. But as I sat there, the tension in the air was palpable. Jake, sitting across from me with a bandage on his arm, kept glancing at me, his eyes filled with resentment and guilt. My parents, too, looked uncomfortable. They wanted this to be over, to sweep it under the rug. But I couldn't let it go. "Megan, can we just put this behind us?" my mom asked, her voice trembling. "Jake's been through enough. He's sorry." "No, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite the fury building inside me. "I can't just pretend nothing happened. He destroyed my car and he drove drunk. He's facing criminal charges, and that's where it has to stand." Jake looked at me, disbelief written on his face. "You're still doing this?" he muttered, a mix of frustration and anger in his voice. "I am," I replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You need to face the consequences. It's the only way you'll ever learn." My parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats, exchanging glances. "But it's just a car," Dad finally said, trying to downplay the situation. "No, it's not just a car," I snapped. "It's my hard work, my sacrifice. And I'm not going to let you protect him anymore." The silence that followed was thick with tension, but I stood firm. No more excuses, no more enabling. Jake needed to take responsibility, and this time I wouldn't back down. Jake's world came crashing down just as mine had. The legal consequences were severe. His third DUI conviction meant jail time, probation, and mandatory alcohol treatment. It was hard to watch, knowing that my refusal to protect him had led to this. But as much as it hurt to see my brother struggle, I knew it was the only way he'd truly change. The weight of his actions was catching up to him, and for the first time, he couldn't blame anyone else. The emotional toll on me was immense. I kept hearing my family's voices echoing, pleading with me to drop the charges, to give him a chance. But I couldn't. I had already sacrificed too much to let him off the hook. One night, weeks into his treatment, Jake called me. His voice was softer, more genuine than I'd ever heard it before. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't get it, Megan. I've been running from my problems for years. This is the wake-up call I needed. I can't keep doing this." That moment, though painful, was the first real step in Jake's transformation. He was taking responsibility. And though it was difficult, I could finally see my brother taking the road to recovery. He wasn't the same person anymore. The transformation in Jake didn't just affect him. It shifted the entire family dynamic. Slowly, Jake became more responsible, not just with his actions, but with his words. He started to show up for family events, no longer hiding behind excuses or denial. The burden of his past mistakes seemed lighter now, and his sincerity in his efforts to change was evident. For me, this journey wasn't just about Jake. It was about my own personal growth. I had learned the hard way that sometimes standing firm in your beliefs doesn't just help others. It helps you reclaim your own peace. I rebuilt my relationship with my family, but this time there were boundaries in place. Honesty and accountability became the foundation of our interactions, and I no longer felt obligated to carry the weight of everyone's mistakes. Family loyalty, I realized, isn't about enabling each other through thick and thin. It's about supporting one another through tough love, even when it feels uncomfortable. Now, our relationships were built on respect and a shared understanding that sometimes the best way to show love is by allowing each other to face consequences, grow, and evolve. The true strength lies in the ability to stand firm, even when family pressures you to overlook mistakes for the sake of peace. Megan's story teaches us that love isn't about enabling destructive behavior. It's about holding each other accountable. By setting boundaries, Megan not only protected her own well-being, but helped her brother understand the importance of responsibility and change. Sometimes the hardest thing we can do is allow someone to face the consequences of their actions, especially when it involves family. But it's through this tough love that real growth happens. Megan's courage to take a stand reshaped not just her relationship with her brother, but the entire family dynamic, shifting from enabling to genuine support. Reflect on your own experiences. Have you ever faced a situation where standing firm and setting boundaries changed the course of your life or relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your story could inspire someone else to embrace their own power and set healthier boundaries.